All right, so before we start talking about the game, there's a couple of orders of business that I want to get out the way. First off, my pick was correct in the Super Bowl. Thank you. Thank you. I ended 5-2, and the two losses were, surprise, surprise, me picking against the Chiefs. I used a superstitious way to make my picks this time around, and it sort of worked out, but the only team that went against that was, of course, the Super Bowl champions. It seemed like if you did anything but bet on Mahomes this postseason, you were probably going to be wrong. No matter how many people try to look at this stat and this, that, and that, it's been 20 years since a player sneezed and coughed at the same time, and if that happens, then their team usually wins the Super Bowl. If this team wears this, then that team is going to win the Super Bowl. If they look left and right, then right again, they're going to win the Super Bowl. All these crazy things don't apply to the Chiefs. If you try to figure out other ways to bet against Patrick Mahomes, he's probably going to burn you in the playoffs. I've learned that the hard way this time around, even though, again, they never looked like contenders all season long, but somehow they managed to pull it together at the end. It's just a symptom of the Chiefs. What can you say? Hats off to them, man. They're just a team that knows how to get it done when it counts the most. That being said, though, I was right about the whole past coming back to haunt you thing. The 49ers did have their past eventually catch up to them in the Super Bowl by losing to the same team they lost to. There are a couple things that are on the line here going into the Super Bowl. The first being that there haven't been back-to-back champs in 20 years, and the last team to do it was, ironically enough, was the last dynasty that the NFL world hated. And it's been 30 years since the Niners won a Super Bowl. And I know, it's like 29, but NFL seasons are weird, and when you win is not when you're actually the champs, and you got a backwards plan. I don't know. I'm just going to say 20 and 30 years to keep it even. It just makes it sound a lot better. 49ers suffered more heartbreak and misery as they lost their third straight Super Bowl. Okay, so it's not consecutive Super Bowls, yet it's still pretty painful to keep going to the big game and losing. A lot of people are comparing this team to the Buffalo Bills of the 90s, which I understand, but to me, I think a more apt comparison would be the Los Angeles Dodgers of baseball fame. The reason I say that they're more like the Dodgers than the Bills is because, much like the Dodgers, Niners are a historical franchise who have won in the past and have had recent success, always being around the conference championship game, always making it to the big game, but never quite getting it done. They both have that one loss that's marred by controversy, even though I think that the Dodgers one is a little bit more egregious because there was a whole scandal involved and there was proof actually found out about this, and the team that they played against was punished. Some would say not enough, but they were punished. The 49ers game against the Ravens had a lot of controversy, a lot of things that people didn't quite understand. The lights went out. They had a comeback that they had going. There were calls that weren't made that maybe should have been made. At the end of the day, the Niners aren't like the Bills because they have had success in the past. They've won 5 Super Bowls. And just like the Dodgers, they had won 5 World Series. Well, prior to them getting one in 2020, which I'm not even going to get into the whole shortened season, COVID restrictions, maybe it doesn't count of the championship. The only thing that I'm trying to say here is that there's a parallel. Both of these teams constantly get there. They have the best records. They get to the big game, or in the case of the Dodgers, they get to the big series and come up short each time. People try to blame coaching, they try to blame the players. It's a conspiracy to keep this team down. They keep coming up against the dynasties. You can make any excuse that you want, but for whatever reason, the 49ers have been snake bitten in these last few Super Bowls.
The AFC champions, Kansas City Chiefs.
I know the Chiefs are in enemy territory for the Super Bowl, but this really felt like a road game for them. The close proximity to California, plus being in a division rival stadium, made this a hostile environment for the Chiefs. This makes it the third road game essentially that they played in these playoffs, and the third straight game where they were considered quote-unquote underdogs. Now, when you're on a Patrick Mahomes led team, I don't know if you can ever consider yourself a true underdog, but yes, if we go based on regular season performance, the Chiefs should have been underdogs in all of these matchups. But if we go strictly based on the playoffs, the Chiefs look like the team that they've looked like in every playoff run that they've had so far. The thing that's different about this year's Chiefs is they don't rely on the offense to carry them, which is scary. If you have a defense that can hold the other team to low scoring or scoreless, and you have Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the ball, you really have little to worry about. In the early goings of this game, the Niners really took it to the Chiefs' defense. They were marching right down the field and they set themselves up for a couple of touchdowns. Unfortunately, they had some unforced errors that really came back to bite them. Their offensive player of the year and potential MVP candidate, Christian McCaffrey, fumbled the ball in the red zone, giving it to the Chiefs, which was a huge scoring opportunity that they let slip through their fingers. Luckily, it did happen early enough in the game where there was a lot of football left to be played, so it could have went either way for how the momentum shifted throughout the game. On top of that, they ended up getting a fumble back of their own that the Chiefs ended up doing in somewhat the same fashion. Both teams had miscues that were uncharacteristic of their performances throughout these playoffs. I think that's a testament to how good the team is on the other side of the ball as well. The defenses showed up and played their hearts out. Need I remind you that both teams had only scored 16 points going into the fourth quarter. This is a little bit crazy because most predictions that I saw had both teams scoring in the upper 20s and 30s. And I know this game ended up being like a mid-20 scoring game, which is about high average from what you would expect from these two teams. But that happened in overtime with some extra time to play. Credit goes out to the defenses for doing what they had to do with both explosive offenses threatening each time. Also, this trick play call to McCaffrey is just chef's kiss. It looked like disaster all the way up until McCaffrey had the ball in his hands and he went in to score. I have to tell you, I have no dog in this fight and I was sweating bullets thinking that was going to be a turnover. I half got what I wanted in the overtime period, but I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping that the Chiefs would end on fourth down and they would have to kick a field goal so we could go into double overtime. I just did not want this game to stop. People are also questioning Kyle Shanahan's decision to take the ball in overtime, which is a fair criticism of the way that he handled the game down the stretch. But I'm tired of people acting like this is just the obvious call to defer the ball in overtime. You can make the case that, yes, it's probably a good idea to defer and see what they do so you could try to match it, fine. But acting like it's just so obvious, like, I mean, anybody would make that call. So let me get this straight. You want to start off overtime by giving the ball to one of the best quarterbacks of all time who's trying to cement his legacy in the Super Bowl, and you just expect to, match what he does? Let's say that the Chiefs do exactly what the Niners did and get it all the way into the red zone with little time left on the clock and they score a touchdown. Now you're forced, with your backs against the wall, to go against that Chiefs defense who is well rested after you gave the ball to Mahomes, and you have to march all the way down the field and match what he just did. No, yeah, that sounds like a recipe for success. I'm not saying that it's the wrong call to defer the ball, but it's not such a no-brainer that people are making it seem like, and they're roasting Kyle Shanahan for that. That one is a little bit strange to me. But that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you feel so inclined, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.